Good afternoon. You are listening to the Financial Promise 30 Minutes of Power with Jason Fields. And we have a great series of shows coming to you for the end of the month. It is December, is the holiday season. And just so you all know, before we thank our sponsors, just want to make sure you all know what's coming up. Today's show, we're going to be doing a year-end personal life review. And then the next show, we're going to go into your personal financial review, and then we're going to do a business review. Simply because at the end of the year in December, normally is when everybody starts to look at their life, take inventory, and begin to go, you know what, what's next? And going into 2018. And so, because I'm going on that journey as well, I like to bring people along, particularly our listening audience and those of you who view this on Facebook Live or on our podcast. And so, before we get into your personal life review, where you're at for the end of 2018, it's been a phenomenal year for me personally, and I'm hoping it's been a phenomenal year for many of you. But I want to thank our sponsors, the Financial Promise, which you all know is my foundation, and we teach financial and business literacy. And you can go to www.thefinancialpromise.com, where you can pick up my books, the latest 3 books that I authored. If you don't go there, you can go to www.jasonmfields.com/. That makes it easier. And the purchase of those books is not just me making money, but the revenue from those books goes to support the show. It goes to buy material for students when I'm teaching classes. So I don't want you all to think that, hey, this is a money maker. This is something I do. This is my ministry. This is my passion. And so the cost and the revenue from that goes to helping other individuals out learn, because, again, I think this is something that God put on my heart to do. So before we get into it, I have to give a huge shout out to Joy 1340 AM, 98.7 FM, Ryan Salzer and Cindy, my producer. The both of them don't know this, but so I was in church yesterday, and Pastor Malone, who has a segment on his show, and so does Debbie Lassiter. So the whole New Testament family is a part of Joy 1340. And so Pastor was telling us about all the good things that came out of Joy 1340. And it was so nice to see and feel that I'm part of a family, that my pastor is going, you know what, guys, this is a good radio station. They have been blessing us. So to Cindy and Ryan, we love you at the New Testament family. We are so good and thankful that through God's grace, He's allowing us to partner with all of you. And so, Cindy, I love you. Thank you for always being with us. And thank you, Ryan, station manager. It is one big happy family. So also, Pastor said to many of us that he wants people to really, he repeats things. And so Sunday, before I get into it, I think Sunday was for me, Cindy. Sunday was a sermon for me. Pastor and I had seen each other because I went to do I'm all involved. All know I'm involved in human sex trafficking organization called He-Man, Men Against Sex Trafficking. We educate men. Dr. Debbie Lassiter, who's the advocate, the principal of Convergence Resource Center, she does a show here. So let me be candid. Tasha and I hadn't been to church in a while, and so Pastor came up to us. And for those of you who don't know Pastor Julie Shimon, you will never find a more smarter, loving, funnier person. So he says to me, hey, Jason, you and Tasha, have y'all been sitting in the balcony? Because I haven't seen you in a while. Now, Pastor knows we haven't been sitting in the balcony. So that's his way of saying, you need to come on back to church and be consistent. So I love him for that. And it's nice to have a pastor who really loves you and care about you. And so one of the sermons that he talked about yesterday was the reason why we all get together and congregate as a body of Christ and worship together. And that was something that I had to learn as I'm going through this year-end review of my personal life. And to tie it into what we're going to be talking about today is that at the end of the year, for me personally, I always get into this somber mood where for me it's about reflection. It's about spending time with God and going, okay, 2018 has come and gone. What happened in 2018? And what am I lining myself up to do in 2019? And usually I'm in a somber sort of mood from December all the way to my birthday, January 29th, where I typically like to just be alone and reflect because that's just what I do. So lo and behold, God put this on my heart, and I found some a process and a research to help you all understand that every year you all should be taking personal inventory of your personal life and then of your financial life, your personal financial life, and for those of you who are entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs to be, your business life as well. And so for me, many of you know if you've attended my classes, I always start out with the spiritual and emotional things first, because to me, that's the foundation of what we build upon. And so this first show, this segment will be conducting your year-end review. And it basically revolves around four steps that I believe you should enlist, you should take note of. And for those of you who are listening, I want to make sure you have a pen and piece of paper, because I want you to write this down. And you're going to take four pieces of paper. And the title of this 10-minute process, maybe longer for those of you who get into it really deeply, is your year-end review. It's like an employer year-end review, a business year-end review, but this is for you personally. This is your personal year-end review. So as December 2018, as 2018 closes, let's go into what your year-end review should look like. So the first process, or the first step, is your accomplishments. What did you do? What did you overcome? And what results did you achieve in your life? And so as you take that first sheet of paper, you're going to write down, okay, question number one for me, at the top of that paper, you're going to write my accomplishments. Question number one, what obstacles have you overcome and what have you accomplished? What obstacles have you overcome and what have you accomplished? Now, a lot of times you want to do this, and you want to do this month by month. You want to break it down. And here's why. Because a lot of times we may forget, we may not think that we've achieved or we've accomplished a lot of things. And normally that happens when somebody else is telling you all the things that you've done. For example, when I'm going to speak, or I'm going to participate on panel discussions and people introduce me, there are times where I'm sitting there, and if I wasn't Jason Fields, I'd be like, wow, this dude has really done a lot of stuff. Because you forget all the things that you've done. And that's because 9 times out of 10, it's not coming from an arrogant place. It's just, if you're doing a lot of these things and that's just your nature, you may forget that you've had, through the grace of God, some opportunities where God has allowed you to accomplish some great things. And so as we close out the end of the year, you need to really think about those things, because you'll find that when you think about those things, it positions you to look at where you're going, where you're at, and more importantly, where you want to go. So the first question is, what obstacles have you overcome and what have you accomplished? And you're going to think about this the whole year, and you're going to consider it month by month. So from January to December, you're going to answer that question. And to make it plain, what did you do? In each of those months, what did you do? For example, I knew coming back from a meeting that I wanted to close out these 3 books. And I wanted to get these 3 books done by December. Me and Tasha, we've done 2 children's books. We're working on the 3rd. And so for the month of November and December, I can say, me and my wife partnered, worked together, and it wasn't perfect. It wasn't 100%, but we're both happy because we enjoyed the process. And now we have these books that will hopefully educate children. Hopefully it will be a resource, a tool for others. As you all know, I practice and we teach financial literacy and business literacy. And what obstacles did I overcome? So here is some of the obstacles that Tasha and I have been consistently trying to overcome. Losing weight. Now that's been, I'll tell you, it has never been more difficult. It has never been more difficult. Cindy, yesterday we went to church and I put on a blazer, and the blazer was a little snug, Cindy. Now, it was snug. And for me, this was cold red. This was it right here, because I had initially bought this blazer because I hadn't gotten a little bit bigger. And so now I've gotten a little bit more bigger. And so I told Tasha, yeah, after church, I'm going straight to the gym. I'm trying to lose all the weight I gained this year. And so Tasha has been doing great. Now, we've been trying a lot of stuff, man. I mean, while we've tried a lot of stuff, from eating all kinds of stuff, we probably spent a couple of $1,000 maybe on all these new things and fads. And you would think we would know better, but we're trying to figure out what works for us. And so what we overcame was we finally got it right. We finally got to a point where I think Tasha's lost 13 pounds now. And she looks good, you guys. She looks really good. And now I feel better. And our overcoming, the obstacle that we have to overcome is we have to stick to it. Like, we'll get into a pattern where we're going and we're okay for a week, maybe two, but then it'll be that one day where we're tired. It'll be that one day where we go to meetings and I'll say, hey, I don't feel like cooking. She doesn't feel like cooking. And you all know me. I'm a pizza man. I'll eat a whole pizza and drink two liters of soda. And so that's just not good. So what happened was I stopped doing that, started cooking, which I enjoyed, because to me, cooking was like my father. My father did all the cooking in our house. And so it was me carrying on his legacy. And plus, I loved it. I love cooking for my wife. When she comes home, she doesn't have to worry about that stuff. And so the obstacle that we overcame was now we're not spending out. We're not spending money out. We're saving money. It gives us time to be together. And the real results that we achieve, which is the third part of that, what we did, what did we overcome, and what the real results are is now we're in better physical condition. We're getting there. We're spending more time together. And so look at what you've accomplished. And I want to make sure people understand that what you accomplish doesn't necessarily have to be a magnitude of, well, I made a boatload of money or I've done all this stuff. An accomplishment really can be something that you knew you struggled with and you were victorious. Again, through the grace of God, He brought you through it and you found victory in that, in overcoming that obstacle. The second thing you need to do is look over the list. Look over the list that you make. And then here's where, again, you guys need to get a pen and paper. What was the most important item on that list? What were the top 3 things? And what really summed up your year as it relates to your accomplishments? What were the most important items on that list of accomplishments? What were your top 3? And then what really summed up your year? So for me, I can say what summed up my year was I'm waiting for one of the exams and certifications that I took. I'm waiting to get that back to see if I passed that. I'm faithful that I did. And so for me, it will be, I got one of the certifications that I went after. And my wife and I, we finished these 3 books. You can get those at Amazon. You can visit our website. And so that for me was my accomplishment for 2018. In addition to becoming the ambassador to the Black Wealth Network, of funding a venture capital fund. So all the things that I did, those were accomplishments to me. Again, not necessarily that I made money, but it was just that I did these things, I saw these things, and again, with the grace and strength of God, we were victorious. And so your accomplishments. Now, on the second sheet of paper, this is section number 2. And again, you're going to do this for the entire year. The second question, or the second statement, or the second, what you're going to write above that is, what did you learn? What you learned? What did you learn in 2018? And I can tell you, I've learned a lot about myself in 2018. Coming fresh off a marriage, I've learned a lot about myself, not just in marriage, but personally, physically, mentally, spiritually. And I think it's imperative that you all write these down because it shows your progress. Because you may not know. You may think, well, I don't know. I didn't do anything. I didn't learn anything. I beg to differ. I'm sure if you wrote this stuff down, you will see that there are a lot of things that you did learn. And again, you want to start from January and you want to go all the way to December. I'll tell you what I've learned, and I'm still learning this. And there are 2 things that come to mind right away. Number 1, if you do not stay inundated in the Word of God, if you don't stay inundated around people of faith, what happens is the world will come and take pot shots at you. You will see things, you will read things, and to a certain degree, it may weaken your faith. If you don't stay surrounded and inundated with people of faith, brothers and sisters of Christ, don't be surprised when you begin to question your beliefs, your faith. And as much as I'm here, there are times where I'm learning to myself. And the revelation of when God says, I don't like lukewarm people, you have to make a decision. That's real, ladies and gentlemen. That is very real. And so the reason why you do that, and Pastor Malone talks about this and gave a sermon on this, is because you don't want to be in a state where now you're lukewarm. If you're going to live for God, you have to make the choice and you have to stay on that straight and narrow path. And so what did you learn is the second sheet of paper that you're going to write down. The other thing that I learned about myself is that I do a lot of things, right? And I enjoy them. And so I told Tasha yesterday, I said, baby, I think I may have to wake up and start getting up at 3 a.m. And Tasha immediately said, well, you're going to have to start going to bed earlier. So, because I don't go to bed, I stay up, I make my own schedule. But it dawned on me, if I want to do all the things that I really want to do and I want to do them well, I have to prioritize and find more time in the day. And so the last few days I've been waking up 3, 4, and I'll be honest with you, it's a little hard because I know in my spirit this is something me and God are going through, but I'm sitting there like, do I really want to get out the bed at 3 or 4 in the morning? But in order for me to do the things that I want to do, in order to do them well, that may be a reality. And technically, I don't really have a problem with it because I'm learning. For example, I just made 3 videos, promotion and marketing videos. And I'll tell you, it's not an easy, simple process. I mean, thank God for Cindy, because Cindy, after doing the little stuff that I do, I can tell you that I appreciate you because I know editing and listening to all these number of people on shows, putting things together, that is not a simple process. I mean, literally, it took me 4 or 5 hours to do one because you have to find the right ad, then you have to find the right music, and little things throw you off. I mean, so I learned that. That's what you have to do. Now, again, for that, what have you learned? You're going to ask yourself, or you're going to list, what's the most important item on that list? What are the top 3? And what really sums up your year? What really sums up your year? For me, what really sums up my year was the fact that I know what I've learned about myself is that I have to find more time, and I actually may have to wake up at 3 a.m. simply if I want to incorporate spending time with God, meditation, and doing all the things that I want to do. That may be a reality. Now, number 3 is, how do you feel? Your personal year in review, how do you feel? And so on your 3rd sheet of paper, question number 3, how satisfied are you? You look back through your life at 2018. You've answered what your accomplishments were. You've listed what you learned. Now the last question is, or not the last question, but the 3rd question is, how do you feel? How satisfied are you? Now, I'm a very competitive person. So there's something about me where I don't get to enjoy the victory long because I'm already on to the next thing. And that's good and bad to a certain degree because sometimes you need to just sit back and just relish in God's grace and accept it and breathe it in, take it in. And so how satisfied are you with this year? How satisfied are you with 2018? Were there personal growth? Did you grow? I'm of the firm belief that once you stop learning and you stop growing, you're basically dead. Like you may be physically alive, but when you get into a place where you don't want to grow, you don't want to learn anything, you don't want to go out, things are not new to you, then you have become a walking zombie. And so are you satisfied with the 2018? Let me put it in ways that I can understand, or ways that you can hopefully this will hit home more. Did you do what God gave you the ability to do that year? Did you glorify him with all the gifts and the tools he gave you? Because there is God's gift to us is the things that he gives us. It's the skill set, it's the knowledge, it's the spiritual weapons that's his gift to us. Now, what we do with those gifts, that's our gift back to God. So in 2018, did you do what it was God wanted you to do for that year? That's how I look at that for me. Meaning, when I look at what God blessed me with, did I use it responsibly? Did I help somebody? Did I help people grow? And so that's how I become satisfied with my walk. And I'll tell you, it doesn't necessarily, even though I talk about finances and money a lot, 9 times out of 10, my personal stuff has nothing to do with money. I wrote down one of the things that I wanted to accomplish was I wanted to make $300,000 before the end of the year, 2018. Now that didn't happen, but I don't beat myself up about it. I mean, because Tasha and I were talking, and just out of the blue, she said, "Jason, you know what? I'm really blessed. We feel really blessed." And she just said, "Jason, God is really good." And I said, "Yeah, Tasha, we're not wanting for anything. We're okay." And she said, "We're better than okay." And for me, when I look at am I satisfied, I'll tell you what helps. Having a person in your life who can help you appreciate the small things or the things that you may take for granted, I'm satisfied with that. There's not a day right now where Tasha and I don't look at each other and we feel extremely blessed. Not simply because we have each other, but the love that God had for both of us to bring us together. So what we try to do is keep each other focused on God, because in our mind, that's the best way we will be the best for each other. And that's what satisfies us. So the third question, how do you feel? Are you satisfied with what happened? Ask yourself, how has 2018 gone for you? How did you feel about it? How would you rate yourself this year? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself this year? Meaning, if you're a 5, okay. Now, there's always room for improvement, but, how would you rate yourself? And give an honest assessment. And finally, question number 4. What's next for you? So, to recap, question number 1, you listed what were your accomplishments? Question number 2, what did you learn? Question number 3, how do you feel? Are you satisfied with this year? How would you rate yourself? And question number 4, the big one, what's next? What's next for you? So question number 4, after you've answered all of those, is what's missing? What's next for me? And this is going into 2019. And so you can go into 2019 better when you've had a personal review of your 2018. And so you're going to ask yourself, what's missing from the list of things that I accomplished? For me, Tasha and I are big at writing affirmations and things we want to do. Like, I have a list of 12, 15 items on my mirror every morning. Some of those I accomplished, some of those I didn't. So what's missing from my list that I accomplished in 2018 that I'm going for in 2019? What was I able to, what was I unable to spend enough time on this year? Or what did I spend too much time on? Many of you know I have several businesses. And so one of the businesses that I have is called Elite Techwear. And as I'm looking at 2018, I didn't spend enough time on that. What your big goals and dreams? The third question you ask yourself, what big goals or dreams would you like to achieve next year? So now you're writing it down and you're preparing yourself to go into 2019 with a plan. And so as you ask yourself what's next for you, this is where you begin to lay out the game plan. And preferably you should do this before 2019 comes, because you want to get an early start. You want to be prepared. You want to go into it with the idea that, hey, I have my goal, I have my visions, and now I'm just going to lay out my plan of attack. And one of the good things about this is when you pray before it happens, now you can talk with God, you can commune with God, and now you both, he may shoot you in a different direction. He may say, yeah, that's your plan, but I have something that's a little bit different, and I need you to come on board. So when you do what's next for you going in 2019, the best advice I could give you is spend time with God as you're doing all of that. And so to recap and close out the show, your personal year-end review is number 1, what are your accomplishments? What did you accomplish this year? Number 2, what did you learn? Number 3, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about this year that's passed? And number 4, what's next for you? Going into 2019 personally, what's next for you? And so next time we're going to do your year-end personal financial review. And then the next show after that, we're going to do your year-end personal business review for all of you who have businesses and are entrepreneurs. And so with that, I want to thank you all for consistently being supporters of mine. I see some of you out and you tell me you listen to the show, and that's always a blessing to me. Thank you. And you've been listening to Jason Fields, The Financial Promise, 30 Minutes of Power. Can't forget to thank our sponsor, the Financial Promise Foundation, where we teach business and personal financial literacy. Please look us up at www.thefinancialpromise.com. We'll see you guys next week.